Hi everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I'll show you how to design a spooky Halloween skull cutter using Shapr3D. In this tutorial, I'll be using a graphic from Canva as my example. Canva is a great place to find simple and ready-to-use designs, but you're not limited to that. You can choose any image, shape, or illustration that fits your project. If you're looking for free, high-quality graphics, there are plenty of excellent resources online. Some of my personal favorites are Pixabay, Pexels, and Unsplash. Each of these sites offers a wide variety of artwork, photos, and illustrations that you can download and use for free. Once your design is ready, go ahead and open Shapr3D so we can start turning it into a 3D model. Start by creating a new project and inserting your image. To do this, go to Add and select Image. Then choose the design you prepared for your cutter. First, I'll rotate the image so it's facing me in the top view. This makes it much easier to work with as we move forward. Next, adjust the size to match how big you want your cutter to be. For this example, I'll set mine to 35 millimeters, but you can choose any size you like. When you're done, click Done. Now, go to the Items panel in the top left, select your image, and reduce the opacity. Lowering the opacity makes the image lighter, which helps a lot when tracing. This way, your lines will stand out clearly in the next step. Next, let's create a new sketch on the plane I'm pointing out here. As soon as you select it, the software will automatically rotate the view so you're looking at it directly from the top, which makes it easier to work with. Now choose the Spline tool. This is the tool we'll use to trace around the outline of the design. If you're just starting out, this step might feel a bit fiddly or frustrating, but don't worry. Take your time and try to follow the way I'm doing it. I usually begin by tracing a rough outline first. Don't worry about making it perfect at this stage. The goal is simply to get the general shape in place so we can refine it afterward. Once you've got that rough shape, start paying closer attention to the details, especially areas where we need sharper features, like the teeth in this design. To create a sharp corner, click on one of the nodes sitting on a tooth edge, then select the sharp corner icon. This will turn that smooth curve into a sharp point. Repeat the same process for each of the nodes along the teeth so that they all look sharp and defined. When that's done, you can shift your focus to the curved parts of the outline. Click on a curved node, and you'll see options to either sharpen or smoothen the curve. You'll also be able to adjust its handles to fine-tune the angle and flow of the curve. This is where you can really refine the shape, making sure the curves look smooth and natural, while the corners remain sharp where needed. Take your time here. The more carefully you adjust the nodes, the better your final design will look. I like to start with a rough shape to get the overall outline down, then gradually refine it, adjusting corners and curves until everything looks right. When you're new, this may take a bit, but I promise you'll get faster at drawing the outlines. Now it's time to add the outlines for the eyes and nose. Select the Spline tool again and begin tracing those shapes, just like you did with the main outline. As before, don't worry if they're not perfect on the first try. You can always adjust the nodes later to get the curves and angles just right. Notice how I'm not placing too many nodes here? I find it much easier to work with just a handful, since adjusting a few nodes is quicker than dealing with dozens. That's just my personal preference, though. If you like having more control, you can use more nodes to fine-tune the curves more precisely. Well done, the outline is finished. Now we'll create the cutting edge using the Offset tool. Select the head outline and shift it outward by 0.4 millimeters. This will give us the cutting edge. Create a second offset from the original outline, this time set to 0.8 millimeters. This will act as the support for the cutting edge. And now, create another offset from the original outline, this time set it to 3 millimeters. This offset will form the handle of the cutter. Quick recap: 0.4 millimeters for the cutting edge, 0.8 millimeters for support, and 3 millimeters the handle. Also create 0.4 millimeters and 0.8 millimeters offsets for the nose and eyes. We don't need the 3 millimeters offset here, since that's only for the outer handle of the cutter. I'll fast forward through this part, since you already know how to create these offsets. Once the outlines are finished, we can hide the image since we no longer need it. The final step in our sketch is adding support for the eyes and nose. Right now they're floating and not attached to the cutter. We'll add a bar running from left to right to connect everything. To do this, draw 2 lines, one below the nose and one above the eyes. Select both lines and set them to horizontal. Double-check that the lines sit slightly above the eyes and just below the nose. Next, trim away any unnecessary lines. To do this, use the Trim tool and click on the parts of the horizontal lines that extend outside the original outline. We only want to keep the portions of the lines inside the original outline. This is where the support for the nose and eyes will be added. I like to keep my sketches neat and tidy. Alright, we're ready to extrude the sketch and turn it into a 3D model. To do this, exit the sketch and rotate your view. This will make it easier to select the contour. Zoom in and click inside the first contour you'd like to extrude. I'll begin with the cutting edge and extrude it by 15 millimeters. Next, we'll move on to the support for the cutting edge. Go ahead and extrude this section by 10 millimeters. The reason for adding this layer is to give the cutter more stability and strength. Next is the handle. Extrude this by 3 millimeters. Now we'll extrude the nose and eyes. For this cutter, I only want them embossed rather than cut out, so they need to be extruded lower than the cutting edge. Select the nose and eyes and extrude them by 14 millimeters. You can adjust this value depending on how thick you roll out your clay and how deep you'd like the embossing to appear. Next, extrude the support around the eyes and nose to a height of 10 millimeters. This added layer helps keep the embossed features stable and firmly connected to the rest of the cutter, preventing them from being too fragile or breaking off during use. Finally, the last part is the support bar. Select it and extrude it to 3 millimeters. This will tie everything together and give the cutter extra strength and stability. Well done! The next step is to combine all of the bodies. Each contour we extruded has created a separate body, and now we'll merge them into one solid piece. To do this, open the Items panel located at the top left. Select all the bodies either by clicking them in the panel or by dragging across the model from left to right. Once all bodies are selected, click on Union to merge them into a single solid. Your model is now ready to be exported for 3D printing. To export your model, click Share at the top, then scroll down and select Export as a file. Next, choose STL file as the export format. Leave the settings as they are, then click Export and save the file to your computer. Now open the exported file in your slicer. I'm using Bamboo Studio for this. When you slice the model as it is, you'll notice the top part of the cutter is missing. This happens because it's too thin for the slicer's standard settings. To fix this, go to the Quality section on the left, then scroll down to Wall Generator. Change the setting from Classic to Arachne. Slice the model again, and you'll now see a complete cutter, ready for printing. When you're ready, click Print to start the 3D printing process. I'm using a Bamboo Lab A1 printer with Bamboo PLA marble filament. It prints smoothly and gives the cutter a clean marble-like finish. Once the print is finished, carefully remove the cutter from the printer. Look how great it printed. Every detail came out perfectly. Now I'll test it out on some polymer clay. Watch how easily it cuts through, and check out the detailed, spooky skull shape it creates. Perfect for Halloween or any fun project. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.